we've come up with this idea of the story of you. And that is suddenly becoming a very powerful thing.
You need a team with specific people with specific skills.
You're that implementer of change. You're the prime example of what can be done even under duress, anxiety and fear. In the room, 52 Jokers Wild.
Welcome everybody to another Friday of In the Room. And this week with Garvin and myself is Donna Phillips, who has the International Film Network website. Is that right? Or on Facebook? That's one of the things that I think that we've been looking at and we will talk. But again, as Garvin and I normally do, we don't normally talk about the subjects. We go off into cuckoo land and various other different places and just see what happens. We free flow through the conversation. But anyway, I'm going to start with talking to Donna initially. We'll see what happens. Hello, Donna. How are you? How's it going in Spain?
Well, it's probably about 24 degrees. I'm doing very well, busy, hoping obviously that people can visit to Spain soon from, the UK, Ireland and everywhere. But yeah, otherwise it's going all good.
It's going all good.
Now, I have a question, George. Does the rain in Spain fall mainly on the plane? What the hell is a plane? Is it a plane in the sky? Is there some planes out there that the rain falls mainly on? I don't know where that is.
It's a flat surface of some nature. But I think
we don't get much. That's a good thing. It is more or less 300. I apologize. I think that's my emails coming in.
Don't worry about them. Ignore them. Don't worry about that. Just work. We didn't hear it anyway.
We didn't hear it, no.
But there's about 300 emails coming in there is all I got.
That's it.
So Donna is in demand. Donna's in demand in Spain.
Well, there's a few mountains, isn't there? And then there's lots of sort of flat areas. Because I know that we went down to, is it Malaga or somewhere down the Algarve or something in the southern part of Spain. And there's a few lovely sort of towns there, but it was lots of flat areas that were nearly scorched as far as I can remember. And then you had a few mountains off in the distance somewhere that you could actually get to. So whereabouts in Spain are you?
So I'm in Nueva Andalusia, which is just sort of at the back up the hill from Puerto Banús. And I can see the mountains quite clearly. I've got La Concha, which is quite a famous one here. And luckily I'm on the top terrace, so I get a view of the mountains and the sea to the right-hand side, which is just, great when you're working from home, really.
Donna, all I heard was you like looking down on people. That's it. You're on the top terrace, looking down on the riffraff. Every now and again, you probably just have that plant. You're watering your plants on your veranda, and people think that rain is back, but it's just you looking down on them. Pouring. Actually, I know what they used to do in the medieval times. I don't know whether you throw that bucket over the edge any time now, so soon. But that's it. The little people are underneath. You're on the veranda. You're up there looking down and looking up. But you're in Spain, but you're English, and you're going. You're in the film. You were in the film area, but you've left the UK for sunnier climates. But I mean, we had a little chit chat before this the other day, going, is there anything that might get you back? Or is it more a case of because you can work from anywhere in the world now with all this technology, you're going to bring the work to where you are, even though you might step back into the ring of film production and all that type of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on. First of all, there's always room at the top for more people.
Bald people? Did you say bald people?
No. More people. More.
And luckily, I'm Welsh, but I'm also English and Irish. So, I can invite in many different cultures, and probably where my networking skills come from as well. But yes, dipping my toes in and out of many different industries. I work for a place in the sun. I run the International Film Producers Network group, and also a few social media accounts in art. I dabble a bit myself in my spare time. So yeah, there's always something going on, really. I'm always busy, which is good.
Yeah. No, we like the art now, because it's the art of George talks about this before. It's the art of talking, the art of conversation, the art of listening. None of this is sticks with me at all. Or just the plain art, the creative arts. So I like, actually, I've just started buying a couple of naked paintings over here. I didn't realize that I bought the ones I bought. The wife's going, they're big, sort of naked women on these canvases. Where are you going to hang them? And I go, in my office probably. But it's as close as I'm going to get to certain arts. But it's, the art we're interested in is the art of story. I think George is more interested in the art of storytelling and getting those stories onto screen. Now, at the same time, storyboarding uses the skills you're talking about. Like my daughter's up there drawing manga or anime. I don't know what she's doing. I don't even know the right terminology for it, but she's sketching all these little images with big eyes and faces and dressing them up. And I'm going, there's an artist in the room there. My father was an artist. My sisters are artists. I keep on saying to George, I'm either a piss artist or a bullshit artist. I'd like to be the artist. My son, for the first time, he's 16, said, who drew that painting? And I said, that was me 19 years ago, just before my daughter was born. And he's going, it's hanging there like his entire life, my daughter's entire life. There's two 6-foot paintings. One has a bit of a Kylie Minogue look about it. And he goes, he always thought it was my sister did it. And I go, well, actually, that's actually to me a good sign, because my sister's art is fabulous. And he probably thought that was one crappy one in the mix. But I mean, it turns out it was mine. My one attempt at being an artist 20 years ago. George has opened up that creative flow with that book he was reading, the Artist's Way. And I think like the one thing that's aligned between the three of us is the artist wants back out. The creativity wants to flow again. Yeah. And it's what journey, I know you work with A Place in the Sun and there's networking, but that art is calling. So what's calling to you? What type of art? What's the plans for the next couple of years to get that art out there?
I mean, a bit like yourself, I come from a creative family. My father's an artist. My cousin's an artist in Australia. They're all quite high profile. Even the younger members of the family are all into art and, everything that's creative, music. So it's always there. And sometimes, obviously, I dip into what I call normal life and then dip into my imagination side. And I'm always sort of coming across people with the same sort of creative skills. So being able to connect with those obviously always helps me build more. And I suppose my plan over the next few years is just using my creativity to try and carry on building the International Film Producers Network and to help others. That's the main thing. It was set up as a platform to help people who couldn't actually find, who were a bit nervous or didn't have the confidence or the marketing skills to reach out and connect with other creatives. And that's what I want to build. That's my passion, really, is connecting people to bring, projects together.
And you were showing us a few little bits of artwork last week, just a few sort of things. And I'd been mentioning something called neurographica. And basically what that is drawing lots of circles and then drawing lines through them and then rounding things off and then coloring them in. And the great thing is I write a journal, because Garvin had mentioned I was doing Julian Cameron's The Writer's Way. And what I found is that by writing 3 pages every morning and just getting into the rhythm of it, it actually opens you up, just gets that flow going. And you start to realize, well, now I've got rid of all the stuff that I don't need to think about anymore. I can now be more in the present to do things. And I know that I'd stopped doing artwork for a bit because I'd actually showed somebody a piece of my artwork and they said, I can get someone from Romania to do that for about 25 quid. And I went, that's not what it's about. It's, it's kind of, it's the creativity thing. But now what I'm finding is that because I'm not overthinking it, I'm just sitting there and doodling, and the doodling process generates all kinds of things, which I think is fascinating, because you're not trying to make it look like something. You're just having a little bit of fun. What's your process is in that kind of doodling? Do you doodle, or is there another process?
Yeah, it's sort of like an art flow. I mean, I've always kind of drawn sort of, your cartoon type females. Why I've been drawn to that, I think it started off when I was younger, just copying pictures of people in catalogues, and learning how to, obviously my father would say that's the best way. And a little bit like the process you were just talking about, which they can use for storyboarding with circles and lines. And it was the easiest way to start learning how to, draw the shape of somebody's face, their body. I've got a couple of ones that I've got here. I've got a pad that I've probably been drawing in since probably, I would say, that the start of lockdown. I really started getting back into my art, and I hadn't done it probably since my late teen years or early 20s.
So a great reset there, really, isn't there?
Yeah.
The lockdown collection. You have to get that published now.
Yeah. So obviously I'll show you a few. So.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll mix everything from, pen to pencil, crayons.
Yes.
Now, if my wife sees me taking out my crayons, I think that's the end of it. I'm gone. She'll go, like, you were an accountant. Now you're in the room coloring in with your crayons. I've lost them all together. He's lost the plot.
Well, I think you have to reach back into your childhood and do what kids do. I've got a grandson who's about 2.5, and his mum and dad, because it was hot over in Canada, they went to a relative's place who had a pool. And he was seeing all his uncles and other relatives jumping into the pool. And he said to his dad, I want to have a go at doing that. And he did. He had that child's curiosity. He says, I'm seeing people do it. I must be able to do it. So they gradually took him over, and he went onto the diving board and he jumped in. There were other people to catch him just in case. But he went, yeah, okay, I've done that. Enjoyed that. Might do it again. But we'll work through the process. And his dad was exactly the same when he was about 4. And I think sometimes we have to become the 4-year-old to really start to explore the world again, the same way that the 4-year-old does. Just look for...
George, you just did the 101 thing we started before this show. You just said, like, a couple of things. If you just take the example out, go learn. You got the example. You saw it. You got the affirmation other people could do it. Then you sort of decide, I'll learn by doing. So the little kid says, look, I can see what they're doing. Someone gave me the example. They're all happy. I can learn by doing. I need to do it. And then he just dived right in. They were all the words we were coming up with just before this show. We need to get the free flow going and just learn by doing. Just do it. Just dive right in. Don't overthink it. And you just chucked it all together in one sentence, using your grandson as the example, which is great. And that's actually back to the international film, just as the producers network type of thing. There's 20,000. I think there's 20,000 people in there. Now we don't know who's in there, what they're doing, what level of learning, how some of them are stuck, some of them want to help, some of them are just in there curious. The thing is, it's a big quagmire of potential. And there's loads of stuff probably going on in there because we know work is going on in there as well. There's lots of projects happening. People met people, hired people, fired people, found some more. So what's in there is it's as you said, it's the perfect network of talent that, some can't speak for themselves. Some don't even know who to speak to. They know they have their own talent, but actually myself and George were talking yesterday, an awful lot of who's in there need 40 jobs to exist for theirs to be a part of it. Therefore, be a writer, be a cameraman, be it something else. They're empowered, they're disempowered in one way until someone turns them on in a project. Isn't
that the problem, Garvin? Because you've just now said somebody has to be turned on to be able to get done.
George, you can't be saying I think this is PG.
No.
You can't be saying they have to be turned on.
Yeah, but you think about it. You think it's about that idea of being given permission to do something. And I think what's really lovely about the story that Donna talked about last week was that she was in control of that switch. She was able to sort of direct herself in where she wanted to go, and that's where a lot of people I think have problems. Is that what you do you come across those kind of issues with some of those people that you're connecting with in your group?
Yes, I mean, from the beginning, it's why the group was set up. My father was a brilliant artist, but he found it hard to do the promotional side or the marketing. So, I started doing that for him. I worked with friends, on a couple of short films, and it was always about people finding the right people and nobody knowing where to start. Obviously, we spoke about it last week. One of the main things that everybody's after is investment.
Oh God, that dirty word. That's a dirty word. You can't be using that here now.
Not knowing where to start or where to go. I mean, it's good that, what I have noticed, obviously, over, especially the sort of past like 5 years or so, I would say, is that there's a lot more opportunities, a lot more courses, a lot more, people giving, online sort of tutorials, being able, obviously lockdown stopped it, but physically being able to go and join in with a group, whether it be acting or, photography, video skills and things like that. So over time, the younger people are the ones who've got the most confidence, or the most opportunities, I would say. So maybe that puts some of the older people off of whether, they would sort of go down these routes. And because there are so many options, it's knowing who are the best ones, because people don't want to waste their time and they want to bring their projects, which mean the world to them, to fruition. So it's about finding the right network of people, not just anybody that's, in the group or offering these packages, I suppose.
No, what I heard was there's an awful lot of, not that it's necessarily for sale. It's like there's a lot of great things in there because it's a very focused group of similar interested people in an industry. So therefore you can say the training is good because it's available there, whether it be free or whether it be, a taster and a freemium, the premium. They know the group need to keep on training, upskilling, because they are competing with their peers, or they're like, if there's limited jobs and there's 10 cameramen, then the most trained and the most able and with the biggest portfolio has maybe got the best chance, and maybe not, because if they're not the best marketing of themselves, the risk taker younger guy can get closer to the horse, as they say, in the sense of because they're seen or heard or took a chance or took a risk or did a bit of social media themselves. And that's the thing. There's a limited amount of projects that are financed and need resource. There's actually, we know from the last person we had, actually, Jonathan, I can't remember his second name for a second. He's going to kill me.
Brownlee. Jonathan Brownlee.
He's from a filmmaker, director, producer from Dallas. Oh, he's from Canada, but living in Dallas in America. But he says the actual demand for workers is twice the supply of available talent in America currently. But at the same time, there's loads of people around that can't get the job. Now, what you had was a bunch of young people which haven't got the backlog of this is what I did lately and haven't proven themselves. So therefore, the production companies go, can't take a risk on that because I'm just here to get my work done at a high quality. You have people like ourselves, which are the mid-50s, could be going, we don't want 16-hour nosebleed days. So they're at this, and then they also know, even if we say we do want it, they won't take you because they know you don't really, and you're not able for it anymore. So there's a bunch of markets whereby it's those well-abled ones in the middles have the job for life all day long, and the young and the older could find it a bit more difficult based on some are slowing down, some are heating up, some don't have all the bells and whistles and IMDb credits to be picked. So it's this, and never mind, they don't know what queue to get in. We were talking about queues before. So they don't even know the work is available. They don't know where it is. And they're so far down the queue, they get disillusioned. So even though there's a massive amount of work out there, which is quite strange.
I mean, you could take it back to basics, and I suppose, old sales techniques, where as really, if you've put yourself, made yourself a little portfolio, and that you would reach out to 100 different film companies, for example, whether it's in your area, another area. It's about not knocking on doors and putting yourself out there. That's how people would have done it, years ago, and yes, there are opportunities now which makes it easier. But I think if you are sort of working hard to get to that position, you would appreciate it more. And those are the people who tend to apply those skill sets on every project or every potential job they're going to come across in the future. You know, they keep battling on, and maybe that puts you in the right position sometimes to meet with the right sort of film companies or, you know, film professionals.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, though. There's no escaping. You got to network to get work.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, your CV is probably worthless unless you're nearly doing social media branding of yourself. You've got to be seen maybe on the LinkedIns, maybe on the YouTube. You've got to go beyond the piece of, if your piece of paper says you're an expert at camera, and no, you got to be popping up in front of them because other people are going to be. It's who's first in the queue. They don't need to search any further. So it's brand you. It's, you've got the tools. You go out there and you can skip queues using the tech and the LinkedIns and social media and get seen and get that job. But you got to step out of that comfort zone. You got to be a little bit more risk taker, you know, to swap the order of the queues, I think.
It is. I know that, I mean, it's always been that kind of way. And I know that one of the biggest problems with being freelance, which is why there is a need for some kind of marketing tool there in front of you, is that if you've got a long job, you get lost in that job for that period of time, and then you almost have to restart again once you've got to the other end, and it's like starting all over again because you're now having to try and get yourself in front of other people, you know, while the group that you were working with are starting to develop their next project, which could take 2 or 3 years. But you do, I mean, a lot of the relationships that I found that I formed were a small bunch of people that were constantly giving me work all the time, and it just kept coming in and coming in and coming in. And that was always the way that I kind of worked. It was word of mouth. So you never had to go out there and do all the kind of marketing that some folks do. And I think there is a problem that a lot of the systems that are out there that look as though they may actually be able to help you end up being more of a block than a way forward. So I think it is good to start getting conversations going like we're having now, because that's the only way that you can start to show what you're capable of doing, and also show the confidence that you have through the way you tell stories, even in this scenario, because everything's about telling a story of some nature. Is that something that you promote through the website that you have at the moment?
I mean, no, what I would say about the group is, you know, now I will try to post out things that will make them think, or to kind of bring out their skills, really, and for them to see perhaps what content is working. I mean, there is a ton of other groups out there, similar to what I'm doing. So, you know, some are smaller amounts of people. It's one of those things where you're trying to bring it out of people, and that's the hardest part.
It's hard work, Donna.
It's the constant, the putting out content myself to try and obviously get everybody to interact. Because unfortunately I can't give the full time to help everybody.
You have the day job, you have the night job. This is just your passion, and you're going, but it's a job. It actually could swallow your whole and be 10 jobs. The weird thing is 20,000 people. We're two little old men. Well, in the sense of we're producing this, editing that, making the other, and then I've got to go on to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. I've got to go TikTok. I don't even know if we should be on TikTok. LinkedIn, and it's like saying there's 4 more jobs of just us to put out what we produced, and it's worth nothing. In the sense that things are 10 seconds of this and 5 seconds of that to get 6 likes, 5. They have it's not even, you're feeding the machine. You're feeding this thing that's demanding more of your time and other people's time, and may not give anything back in return. It makes no promises. It doesn't say you're going to be viral. It doesn't say you're going to be seen. It doesn't say you're going to get a job afterwards. But what it does say is, if you're not doing it, you've got little or no hope, because your website's dead in the water. The algorithms are now on social media. For you to be seen or heard, even to see if you're bad, good, or indifferent, you've got to be feeding the machine, and you've got to be feeding it good content. And therefore, you're at the top of this funnel that the thing it's generated, loads of people are in there chucking maybe some ads, some asks, some wants, so in the machine, and there's others trying to sell, and others trying to inform, others trying to entertain. It's a 20,000 people. It's like an anthill. There's loads of stuff going on in there. You get lost in it if you looked in and just started going through the who's saying what to who, what, where, and when. It does its own thing. It has a momentum. But at the same time, at the top, you're going, you could just drown. You could, personally, we're drowning, and we're not even, we can't even handle the little bits we're doing. You could staff up a full staff there. They could be working from now till doomsday, and there could be no money coming in, and it'll still look for more. It's a self-help group, strangely enough. It needs work done, but the work needs to be done by those in there, not by people volunteering at the top. You're a facilitator, because otherwise you've got 10 jobs and no one's paying and everyone's taking and no one giving. Yeah,
you need a good team, really. It's like, I believe in anything. If you work on a film project or anything, really, you can put it to any sort of industry or project, but you need a team with specific people with specific skills.
That's it.
Some of you can multitask on some things, but you do need, an understanding, whether it's sort of the business side, the creative side, run into a plan. Somebody, who's quite disciplined in timing. It takes a good bunch of people to be able to.
Do you have that team? Do you have that team to help you with the admin and all that sort of stuff? Do you need to build that team?
Yeah, not immediately, but I mean, over the years, I've met so many incredible people that I know I could just go to and ask. But I've just always been somebody who's kind of taken everything on myself. Maybe that's just me.
You got to let go. That's share the love, because that, as you said, the weird thing is there's a bunch of people out there that this is their love, this is their passion. The opportunity to interact with this community, they'd actually pay for if it wasn't seen as the work. There's a work aspect to it, which will always be there. But when you got to do that work, that pain to get the gain, and the gain is the networking. You got to work the network to get work. It's the same. It's the two sides, the same kind. That what's in that is the access to that network, the personality they can inject in there, and relationships that they can create, and the opportunities that can come out of it. All demand they have to be part of it, have to have the passion, have to interact with it. But I mean, I think it's time you put the call, because this thing has grown to a level that it's a formidable something. It just needs to be. It now needs to. You can empower it. You've got this beautiful community that is doing what it's doing by itself. But now you can, if you can step back in, you can direct it, you can empower it, you can package it, you can, it doesn't know what it's. There's no one at running the. Don't mean no one running the show. Everyone in there is doing what they're doing. But you can take it, or something like when we say to you, myself and George get frightened because every time we hear the word "you," that means I have another job. You're going, no. The "you" is you can empower where it can go strategically. You can affect who can get involved and who should get involved, and find those personalities that have the passion you have that can bring this to where it needs to be, which is actually the one we begin this whole conversation is hidden in there is stories that need to be told and captured and made. And the biggest thing which may be missing is finance. But in the absence of them being brought out and packaged and pitched, they can never be financed, because the financiers don't know what it is, don't know what the value is, and can't see that. That is in there. We just need to figure out how to bring it out.
One of the issues, though, I think that is constantly happening is that everybody, we mentioned a short time ago, that what's happening is a lot of people are becoming multi-hyphenated. So they're becoming the producer, director, the cameraman, the editor, the script writer, the storyboard.
That's because there's no finance.
I know that's because there's no finance. But what ends up happening is that a lot of people then become so locked into that silo, because you've talked about silos quite a bit, Garvin, that everybody falls into a silo. In a way, that's a silo, and everybody feels comfortable because they can do all these pieces, but then they've stretched themselves so far. But one of the things that we've started to learn, I think, on our journey together is that we can only do so much, and we have to start to simmer down a little bit and start to realize, where are our limits? Where is the framework that beyond that, really, I shouldn't be doing this because that's somebody else's? And I think one of the things I've started to learn over the last couple of years is that what I need to now do is empower other people. Yes, I know there isn't the finance sometimes to do that, but we have to, if we're an artist, we talked about art earlier on, we end up doing things because we start to work. But I think one of the other things that we have to start to do is start to work with other people in some kind of community or some kind of grouping that allows us to build those soft skills, where we start to realize that we can trust the other person to do something and empower them to take on those sort of responsibilities. Because I think what often happens is you have a great leader, which is what Donna is, and quite sometimes we can be. And what happens is everybody just relies on that person to do it. Now, I've been in a union before where everybody's kind of moaning to me and say, well, why isn't the union doing something? And I had to turn around to them and say, the union is not me, it's all of us. So what are you guys going to do? Because you've got to do something. You've got to commit to something. You've got to do something and sacrifice something. It's not just one or two people that end up getting burnt out by the end of the process. And I think that becomes important, because I think we've all experienced that in some way. We want to carry on, but it's trying to find a way to empower other people now to take some of those responsibilities to make it live a little bit longer.
George, you've used some nice words there. I'm going to jump in for a second again, because it's using you've used the word framework and you've used the word silos. What we know what's in the group is there's 100 silos. They're not silos. What we mean is there's a silo of expertise of camera skills, there's sound skills, there's animation skills, there's story. Each one goes, my primary job function is I am an expert in camera. So therefore, I'm not an expert in sound. I can do a bit of sound, but if you had to silo me, I want a visual job, a video job. I don't want an audio job. So there's a frame. You're sitting at the top of a framework of silos of, in here is, I can framework it, but if I go into any one of them, I will get sucked in to what their needs and wants are. And it's not, no, they're in there sorting themselves out, and they're in there for a reason. They're curious as to what the news in the industry is, what access to new training is, what they should be doing. If they have a job, they're gone and they might dip in. If they've no job, they're in there looking to get a job. But at the same time, the language we myself and George started to find for ourselves over the last number of weeks was, we got to stop doing the damn thing. We've got to go holistic. We've got to pull ourselves out of doing the work and go, let's look at the framework of silos. Let's go holistic on what the opportunity is. Our job is to create the jobs. Our job is to empower the jobs. Our job, so at the moment, there's no jobs in there, because if they're in there, they're looking for the work or the project to be kicked into gear or finance, so they can be sucked out of the silo and go project wide, so that they no longer have the time to be in there other than their leisure time of curiosity of train, this sort of stuff. You have 20,000 people. I know it from other groups as well. That's, if you stratify it, there's going to be the takers, there's going to be the givers, there's going to be the ones that are mixed in between. I'm a taker giver, I'm a lover, I'm not a fighter. But there's going to be a bunch of people expecting other people just to solve their problem. There's other people like yourself, giving of your time to it and asking for nothing in return. And but certain others when there will just keep on taking that, and it's your responsibility to sort me out. Where George has said, it's a community of a union of everyone in there is meant to be, as you said, sorting themselves out, figuring out, creating products. But if there's no one leading the way and no one gone holistic, no one knows the way out of the silo, and no one knows where anyone else is, other than the few that do seep out and try and network and create it, you'll find 90% are stuck in the silo. 10% were those that were so close, they know they need to make a difference. They know they need to do work to get work, and they've clawed out of the silo and grabbed a few people around them and start to create these projects. And they're doing the work in the absence of the finance, and they're saying, we'll get the finance afterwards. But the brilliant thing of, you've got the potential to re-empower others. And I think you got to find those friends and let them realize what's here is an industry. You have a sub-industry that is there. Now, in it, it could be just 20% of that 80% of that 100% is bubbling value, ready to go. It just needs to be given the fuel. and it needs to be packaged. And that's a bunch of work for a bunch of people, and they're your friends, they're who you got to find, and that can then go on a new journey of story, of the manifestation of creativity into story creation and new content. You know, I see that.
We've been sort of giving our kind of little perspective of how we see those, also based on some of the
we've no idea. We're just making that up.
No, but I think what's important is that one of the questions I was going to ask there was that it's the International Producers Network, Film Producers Network. Is there any themes that are coming through that those within the community are actually saying that their needs are? Are they starting to highlight any of those kind of ideas or problems or issues? What are the main themes that they're coming up with?
I mean, most of the main one is that they're all looking for work. You know, we did mention last week that a few of them will ask sort of questions, but a lot of the time the answer is within themselves. You know, it could be something simple, whereas you would just say to them, you know, pick out 100 companies and send your email with your CV. It's, for some reasons, not everybody thinks of these things, you know, offhand. So, I mean, with the group, you know, there's lots of different content in there nowadays, and it's grown obviously since lockdown. You know, during lockdown, there was people posting just every single day because they were at home, they couldn't work, so it's sort of like, you know, like most industries and, you know, graphics or whatever for companies, it peaked at a certain point. And then obviously as, you know, lockdowns started sort of calming down a bit and people are back out and about and could film again, then obviously it sort of quietened down. You know, unfortunately, you know, I had to throw myself back into full-time work as well. So, you know, it is self-running, like I say. But it would be nice to be able to pinpoint and offer opportunities for people in there.
See, again, it's back to it's the pain. The pain is, Donna, you're already doing 8 jobs. You know, you can't.
Yeah.
You know, you want to give more, but to give, you got to take from somewhere else, and it's so. Therefore, the strange thing is now, and I'm like, if it paid, would you swap A for B? The problem, what we've noticed in other groups is they didn't know how to monetize it at a height that they can actually staff it properly and admin it, because what it is that's saying in a couple of words, we need a recruitment firm because there's a bunch here offering jobs and a bunch here, like, you know, that want employment, but we don't know where we are because we have to find the funnels. You know, we could get lost in here. We post something that's gone in 5 seconds because the way the algorithm works, because you're actually on Facebook or you're on LinkedIn. I post something that's gone in 30 seconds. If it's not pinned, if I wasn't on with the job and I didn't see it, I'm gone. So therefore, this is the problem with, you know, there's some people out there that are posting, like, I guarantee you, 3% of that 100% are posting. 80% are passive and they're just reading. So or something like that's going on. So you'll find those that are posting are either doing they're advertising, or there's others, or maybe they're trying to, you know, advertise there's a job, but or maybe they're just trying to promote themselves. But in their other groups they nearly call it spam, because they're going, if you're successfully generating content, we could drown the group in our content. Its content but if we put it in, no one else gets a chance because we can just keep on putting it in. And that's the problem. You're going, what the group is about, if you strip it back in functionality, it's people want a community. They want to know people are in similar situations themselves. They want jobs and they want other people to help them find it. If they find one themselves and they have one, they'd like to give back and then say, well, there's another job going here where I am. You know, I believe in the group. The interesting thing about what we're talking about there, because there is a kind of anomaly there, because I know, Garvin, you've talked about this in the last couple of weeks, and we've discussed this, that if we go out now to do a job, we're sucked into another system that basically eats up our time and doesn't give us back the value that we feel that we have to put in. Now, a group of producers, you'd kind of think, if they're jobbing producers, then they're not what we associate with producers.
Producers are someone that initiate ideas, develop them, and then try to find the funding to get those things going. So it will then generate work and generate other prospects for them. Whereas there are other producers that are like me, or that I was as an editor, where I just went from one edit job to another, and they're just taking on those jobs just to pay the bills. But in the end, they've never actually directed their life along a certain path. And what I loved about the conversation we had with you, Donna, last week was you seem to be the kind of person that actually directs where you're going, sees the connections, and starts, and you're creating your own life journey, which I think is the most powerful thing. And that's something that I kind of feel that we need to encourage other people to do is don't rely on somebody else to lift you up. Find a way to create your own life story. And I think we've come up with this idea of the story of you. And that is suddenly becoming a very powerful thing. You mentioned earlier on that the answers that most people had were actually within them. They just weren't putting them out. And I think that's what we've got to try and nurture in folk is look within, pull the answer out of yourself. If you need someone to guide you and talk you through, you've got a network of people that could share their experiences with you and start to create that bubble, that energy where you suddenly realize that you guys can actually collectively create the work that you need to do that will generate an income. And I think that's something that is most people get lost. They don't realize, well, we can generate the income, because you were saying you've gone to Spain to work. And you're doing this job, but I think out of the conversation,
and you created the job.
But you created the job. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't somebody else didn't call you out there to do it. You went there and created the opportunity for yourself, and that's what I thought was brilliant. I think that's really good. So, is that something you feel that you could start to work with and empower some of those others to look into that spirit that you followed?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to do that. I've been lucky enough that I have taught, with projects and great teams over the years, in sort of creative industries. One thing that I'd like to mention is I've been reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad this week. And it's interesting.
Very good.
When he talks about Rich Dad, he basically says to the young boys, that nobody that's ever worked for him has ever gone to him and asked him how he got there. So it's about asking the right questions as well, I think. And just having somebody like Rich Dad, who's clearly, I'm sort of like halfway through the book at the moment, who's a mentor. I believe a lot in meditation and focus. I could probably be a little bit more focused sometimes, but I'm a juggler. I've always juggled different projects, different jobs. That's just me.
We don't call you a juggler, because see, what we are is 52 jokers wild. Wow. You're a joker. A joker is a chameleon and takes on any and all type of jobs, and then if that one doesn't suit, I'll do another one. But it's not afraid to do the work, and it's not getting stuck in one silo. It's like, if you're not happy with that one, I'll do this one, and there's nothing going to stop me. I can train myself up, I can dive right in, I can empower. I don't need to be the expert. I can be the joker, and it's not the comedian, it's the chameleon. It's that type of thing. And that I see in affinity with you now, because you just keep on saying, oh, I'm going to do it. And then you set up a group, 20,000 strong. I'll just go, one of the founders, I'll just go do it.
Flows as it goes, I suppose. But, my
now it has a life with
change.
someone. You're going, I think you got to go back to your baby. That baby is 20,000 strong, and it doesn't know. You just need to take control of it and go, right, we're going to finance movies. We're going to create jobs, and we're going to staff it. We're going to empower it, and it's going to pay for it. It's not about the money is a weird thing. It just because people have to pay bills. They can give of their passion time, but if it's their functional silo time, that is for to pay the bill. And they got to feed their own baby, their own family, and therefore. But there is, as you said, you've touched on it, there's a coaching, mentoring, give back group in there that if you can package them, they will float to the top and want to empower the next level to bring them out of their silos so they can package themselves into jobs and careers and training. But if it's an I all over the place, the only answer is a we. The doing is going back to the person themselves has to act on it, do it. If the coach and mentor, George keeps on telling me, is all they're going to say is it's up to you. But they might show you a way or open a door or show it's in you. But the only person they can make it happen is a you. But being part of a we, I think, will help it happen, have a better chance of happening, maybe.
You were going to say something there, Donna. I can't remember.
I know, I'm hugging all the time.
I know.
Okay, I'm used to Garvin now. It's all good. I'm a big believer in change and just taking chances, I think. I've always thrown myself into opportunities. It's taken me to some amazing places. I've met amazing people. I've been lucky enough to work for amazing companies and on projects, and that's throughout my life, really. And I know it's not as easy for everybody, to take chances, because they do worry about, being able to pay bills and things like that. But if I can sort of like just give some of that away that'll help other people, just to kind of like give them that little bit of confidence, that would be the aim of the game for me, really. I think it's being able to share my passion to help others.
You were mentioning there that obviously there are some people frightened to take the risk of doing some of those kind of ideas. Are there any insights that you could give those people to think about so they might maybe change their perspective on that?
Yeah, first of all, I'd say definitely meditation. So, every day I do a meditation, whether it's for, 20 minutes, half an hour in the afternoon, or a little bit of time in the morning. I just find it kind of helps to focus, especially, for people who might be struggling after, the recent events with the lockdowns and everything, with anxiety or depression or anything like that. But it's a way of helping you with your own self-belief and getting to know your own mind, your own body, knowing how to calm yourself in these instances. And I find it does help you to focus ahead. So it might help you to, just start a plan, even, if you're just going to start the first couple of months of trying to work towards something. Because I believe if you're feeling, better within yourself, then it's going to roll out to the other areas of your life anyway.
And how do you find that meditation deals with fear? Because fear is, our very first show is about fear. And I think that's something that a lot of people have.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big one. It's probably been a big one for me all of my life, I would say, as well. Just, the fear of being rejected or not being good enough. We talked about it last week. Where you've got imposter sort of syndrome. You're like, how did I get here? How did I do this? Because everybody has it now and again, but just keep working a little bit on something every day, I think. There's plenty of meditations on YouTube. Synctuition was a really good one for me, which I used during lockdown. I've been listening to meditations for years, but I think sometimes my ideas were getting drowned out because I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Sometimes, around nice people, but just people who didn't really understand me or what I was trying to achieve, really.
Do you find that there can also be a bit of a toxic positivity because sometimes that can make people feel that if they don't achieve certain things, they're failures? So it can also have a reverse effect. Is that, are there specific things that you would meditate on that might help you in that area?
I mean, if I'm looking for, meditations, one would be, anxiety. I mean, there's so many of them out there. I tend to mix and match them up, depending on how I'm feeling on that day, I suppose. So if I had a day where I was feeling like I was procrastinating and I couldn't focus, then I would choose a meditation that's based around focus. And then if I had a day where, I just wasn't feeling confident enough to do something, or anxiety, I would find a meditation to match that. So again, it's about change. I think life is just about change.
I'm going to jump in there now because
we've got to set a task now for
I've
Garvin.
just go
This is wonderful.
meditate and do a bit of yoga there for a while.
Yeah, go on.
And I'm going, all right, I've got to stop. I've got to honestly stop this.
You see this thing here
because
that he's got
you're
behind his
losing me, the period.
No, that was your time for meditation, Garvin. Imagine your meditation
George
time.
there in his yoga pants out the back, putting his leg behind his ears. I don't know what he's doing. I think I know Russell Brand is big into it. So
Yes.
he's going to be going around in his pajamas and toga shortly. But no, I'm going to go back a little bit to what you were saying, because change. But then the whole thing here is reminding me of another one of our guests, Frederica Murphy, and she just wrote a book called Leading from the Edge or Beyond the Edge. One of those. But the edge is the edge of your comfort zone, and it's that. And the whole point of change is, if you're not changing, then you're in your comfort zone. You're comfortable. You might not be happy, but you're not willing to change. You're not willing to take on new learning, go on a new journey. If you are, we were rattling in our comfort zones, realizing that we're not happy here. We put up with it for years. We had to break free of it. But to break free of a comfort zone, you had to go beyond the edge. You had to change. The only thing that you had to change, and you had to change your surroundings, maybe your people, maybe your relationships. As you said, most of the time in my life, I was talking to, you hit the nail on the head. I was selling to the unconvertible. They weren't my audience. They weren't my customer. I felt rejected from somebody that was never going to buy. That was never the right person. Therefore, you were the blind lead. It wasn't the blind leading the blind. You go, how? If that was my measure of success, which was rejection from those that didn't want to buy and was not the customer, and I never went any further, because that's the first level of rejection. That's where I think a lot of people get stuck. They got rejected once with the wrong people, and then they were afraid to go to the second one. And that my sister, the artist as well. I had no customers. 30 years ago, she started being an artist. There's 100 paintings the world has never seen. But because one person wouldn't pay or didn't want the price, it's like George said, then that was the measure going forward, because the personality was anxious, didn't want to try again. We left the box. We're so far outside that box, we're not even on the same planet anymore. The comfort, we're so uncomfortable. It's I don't even, and actually prickly. I think that's what we need to be. You need to be constantly uncomfortable enough to keep going on the journey. And then as you get comfortable in a piece of it, it's not stop. It's keep going, because we're now meeting the likes of yourself. A year ago, we're sitting in a room with a clock behind us, as George keeps on saying, and I'm still shouting at the screen, but that's not going to change, because that's who I am. But what's changed is we're talking to individuals in the film industry. We're seen as peers. We're not about asking anyone for anything. What we want to do is implement change. We want to change ourselves. We said at the very beginning, we're going to go disrupt. And we said, go disrupt what? We're going to go disrupt ourselves, because if we don't disrupt ourselves first, we're not capable of disrupting anything else. And the word disrupt is actually innovate. That's what we mean. We're going to go out there and do something different. We can't wait for others. We can't get into other people's queues. We can't ask permission of an industry that has a queue 200 long with no budget and doesn't know what change looks like when it's talking to it. So you are that change. We are that change. And we're on a train of disruption and innovation. And we want the passengers that are going to get on are those that get it, not those that don't. They're those that want to make the difference to themselves first, to then to give to others. But it can't be the takers, because the takers will just say, give me a job and I'll take it. Whereas we need a giver to get on board, and we'll end up with the job, we'll end up with the story, we'll end up with the creativity, we'll end up with the network that gets work and makes a difference. And that's where I see yourself. I see you're that implementer of change. You're the prime example of what can be done even under duress, anxiety and fear. 20,000 strong, creating your own jobs. That's just what you did in your spare time. God forbid you actually were focusing on what you want to do. You'd be dangerous, So you're our hero, you're our mentor, you're our coach, you're the implementer of change. And I think we've a lot to learn from you. And that's what we need to do, is follow you on your journey.
Same.
That's what I see.
Same with you.
Other
guys.
than the meditation, I'm not going with the meditation.
I actually do think that the meditation thing is coming up.
I know it's
strong.
good for some, but I crack up.
Yeah, no, I think
I'd
maybe
spontaneously combust. I'm reminded of some monk that's meant to be 1,000 years old. I sat there and turned into stone. That's what would happen if I'd either spontaneously combust or turn into stone.
Maybe that's the change that you need. Maybe that's what you need is to turn into fire and become that fireball of
now
energy.
You have it. What shit? Now you're going. Yeah, most of the time people limit themselves based on the resources to hand. It's, as you said, I'm doing what I can do based on my time, based on what's available, based on my resources. But if that wasn't an issue, what would you be doing? What change would you be implementing? That's the bit we need to be sourcing, the bit that empowers us to roll out change.
Which I think is because we're about to have a change coming up in a few moments, because we have to bring the show to an end. Actually, we've reached that point. We've been going for an hour, which is really quite good. So what I'd like to do is just to ask Donna, we've had this great conversation about really the energy that's needed to be self-motivated. And some of the things that you've talked about is that you've been using meditation to help, if you like, fine tune yourself, refocus yourself, get yourself online. Garvin actually mentioned the train a short time ago. And when I mentioned that the other week, he said, no, George, I'm going off road. So we'd have to remind Garvin that he's become too defined by those 2 tracks. And we need to get him off road again with the big wheels and just going when nobody else has gone yet, which I think is really, really good. And I think that's what's motivating us through the conversation, that we've experienced this idea that although you're working, you're actually the instigator of that work. You haven't had to be led by somebody else. You haven't had to get permission. And one of the things that we've kind of talked about during the show is that a lot of people, they're talking about how to get work to pay the bills. And they end up getting themselves trapped in a silo in many ways, where they go off and just do those jobs, but they never really achieve the goals that they had originally set themselves. And I think that's the key. So what I loved about what you're talking about is that you've got your job, which generates your income. You've also got your passion, which you've kept in parallel. Maybe they're the 2 lines, the railway lines we have. And I know that with my students in the past, I've always said to them, you're generating income, so you need one source for one thing, but you've got to make sure you have that time to create your passion, to make sure you can achieve those, because the job will come and go. They always have a chapter. They're like a chapter. They have a start, middle, and finish, and you have to go on and do something else. But your passion could last you a lifetime. And I think that's a really, really important part of that sort of journey to actually go through. And however you want to, whether it's meditation, that's working for you. It's something similar, I think, that I might be into. Garvin does something different. It's
a creative Red Bull in my
creative
case.
Red Bull.
That'll keep me going.
I actually think Garvin's meditations, that he starts to talk, and actually as he talks and talks and talks, he actually works things through.
That's externalizing. I'm out in the middle of the garden here. People think I'm talking to actually, I'm probably talking to God. I'm talking to the universe. As I said before, I have a list like Santa Claus of what I'm asking the universe for. I'm going, I want this, I want that, I want the other, and 3 of those. Because if you don't ask, you don't get. So that's what we found as well. It's like you got to ask for the sale. You got to ask for it. You got to have it in your vocabulary. Yeah. If you're not considering it, it's not going to just magic itself in front of you. That's just not going to happen.
Is there any message that you'd like to put across to your audience, Donna, that would be a kind of closing message to this kind of show, which you think is valuable to think about?
I think it's about balance, really. Like taking that time to actually figure out who you are, what your skill set is, and making that plan where you can actually, spend that quality time, even if it's just for, an hour every 2 or 3 days to start with. Just start somewhere. It takes nothing to do a 10-minute meditation in the morning when you wake up. Not that that's really anything to do with the film, but that's what I found has helped me. It's just taking that time out to refocus. So you might, because I'm somebody whose mind's all over the place. I did that last week when we spoke. I'm always thinking about different things. So it's just being able to home in on which ones you should start with. And reaching out to people, It doesn't matter how many no's you get, like the sales technique, 100 no's, you might get, one yes at the end of that, and that might be the one. So, it's about putting yourself out there, really.
And I think that's really important, because that's echoing what Garvin and myself have been doing. And we, it's part of the learning, part of the change that we're probably going through as well. So Garvin, your last words, because I think they're words of wisdom that hopefully will be your meditation for this show.
I'm going for the sale, because Donna just actually referred to about 5 different shows. She said balance. We have a show called Balance. Time. We've got time. Fear. That's number 1. We also have Dive Right In. That was in there too. So, and change. I don't think it's called Lead Beyond the Edge. We've got that one. So strangely enough, these are we're not coaches. We're not mentors. This was just 2 old men having a conversation, and not an old woman in this case, a lovely younger lady here now. But the thing is, everybody sitting in a room comes up with the same subjects. It's balance, fear, time, problems, anxiety, stress, project, goal, family, bills, money. Everybody's got a different amount or different volume of same. We don't have rich dads. Well, some have rich dads, some have poor dads. But at the end of the day, if you had a dad, that's for definite. Whether he was around or not doesn't matter. But we're on this planet. We're on it for a limited amount of time. The wealth is your health, is your family. It's not the money. The money just pays bills. But you'll need enough of it. But find your passion. Go out there, make some friends, influence people, get new relationships. Always ask for the sale. And if you get a no, you're in the wrong room. It's not your customer. Don't worry. Go to the next person and ask again. So keep on going, keep on doing. That's what I learned today.
Brilliant. Well, look, thank you everybody for listening to the show today. Thank you, Donna, for coming on and being one of our guests. We hope we'll get you on the show again as well. And bye for now, everybody.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and click on the bell for notifications.